Hi BookTube. I decided to make another video. It is still October the 30th, 2017. It is a Monday. It's 8:22 at night. I said this morning I was going to make a video tomorrow night or tomorrow, but I want to get all these. I mentioned that in my next video I was going to show you the books I got from the thrift stores last week, and a book I got from the Book Nook when I volunteered Friday. And I just want to get rid of them. They're on my desk. They're up here in the on my to be read pile, and I don't plan to read these. I just collect this stuff. So I want to get rid of them. So I'm going to make a video, and I'll download it before I go to bed tonight. And then tomorrow morning, you guys can watch it if you so choose. So yeah, it's a Monday night. It hailed, it rained, and it was just an ugly day outside weather-wise. As far as reading, I read this afternoon, as I mentioned, The Lonely City, Adventures in the Art of Being Alone by Olivia Lang. I read that. I'm reading now she goes into the life of Andy Warhol, which I found, I have several biographies of Andy Warhol. I have volumes of his artwork and some other stuff by him, but so I read that, and then I got tired of reading that, and I picked up this just to read it because I didn't feel like reading anything else. Just kind of curious. I showed this morning, a book I got in the mail last week, Schlesinger, the Imperial Historian by Richard Aldous. I didn't mention the author's name this morning who wrote this biography. Yeah, I read about 25 pages this evening. I'm just going to show you, I have the letters of author Schlesinger Jr., edited by Andrew Schlesinger and Stephen Schlesinger. Those are his sons. It's the letters. And then I have the journals of author Schlesinger, author M. Schlesinger Jr., 1952 to 2000. So I have that. I got those out just to show you that I'm not lying when I say I have other books by Schlesinger. I mean, how do you know I'm telling you the truth? I just might be pulling your leg. But no, I do collect his works, his books. I could bring them all up here and show you, but take my word, I'm not fooling you. I'm not being deceitful. I'm not just telling you a bunch of fibs. So yeah, as far as my diary, I don't write at night. I ended on page 977. Tomorrow is the last day of October. It'll be page 978 tomorrow morning if I wake up. I already got titles for my diary entries. I've mentioned that I keep online diaries in Crooked Fingers and LiveJournal and Glory Cloud in Diaryland and WordPress, The Cloud of Unknowing. And I always need titles for journal entries. And so what I do is if I come across them in my reading, I write them down. Here's one for The Essential Unknowability of Others. That's a good journal title. The Illusion of Self-Forgetfulness. Deeper into the interior of the self. In erotics of insufficient intimacy. In erotics of insufficient intimacy. I like that one. So those are going to be titles for entries. One of those tomorrow. Now I usually just write once in my online diaries, and sometimes I switch titles from one online diary to the next. because now I have 4 titles here for diary entries. So as far as the used books, I'll just show them quickly so I can get rid of them, put them down on the lower level, forget about them. Some of these are my wife's. I got these from my wife wants to read these. I found this at a Goodwill. These are all local thrift stores, not just around where I live, where we live. This is a mystery writer. She wrote back in the 40s by Josephine Tey, Brat Farrar. I got this from my wife. My wife reads mysteries. I don't read mysteries generally. This is a novel that I thought my wife would like. It was an introduction by John Updike. It's considered the classic novel of life and death in the American hospital. You know, my wife's is a professional nurse. She's an RN. She's been for 44 years. This is A House of God by Samuel Shem. I showed this to my wife, and she said that at work they refer to this. And it was interesting that in this paperback that I got at Goodwill is a calling card from somebody my wife knows who's an ambulance driver. So he donated this book to Goodwill, and he drives an ambulance, and my wife knows him. And then I found Blue Eyes by Jerome Charyn. I collect his writings. It says here, Blue Eyes, the grotesque underworld types. This is just quoting from some journal. Anyway, Blue Eyes. This is about the novel Blue Eyes by Jerome Charyn. The Blue Eyes, the grotesque underworld types have a heavy reaction to him. Take Odetta, a gorgeous prostitute, queen of the porno screen. When he comes her way, he's more than just another fast trick. Or Chino Reeves, the pimp. He's half Cuban and half Chinese, 100% obsessed with revenge on the man who humiliated him, the one man his girl has a weakness for, the man they call Blue Eyes. I have this in a trilogy, but I like this is an old Avon paperback, came out in 1974. I just like it's only 60 cents. Then I found this History of Salt, A World History by Mark Kurlansky. I think I have another book of his, Cod, down in the lower level. This is the History of Salt. And then I found another book from my wife. This guy, he is the author of 3. This is, I can't pronounce his name. His Atul Gawande. I can't pronounce his name, but this is his book, Being Mortal, Medicine and What Matters in the End. My wife really likes his books. He wrote a famous book called The Checklist Manifesto. I gave her another book of his I found at a thrift store. See if it's mentioned here. Yeah, it's called Better, A Surgeon's Notes on Performance. He also wrote Complications, A Surgeon's Notes on an Imperfect Science. My wife likes books on medicine, so I got that for her. And then I found this book, Goodwill, by Daniel C. Dennett. He's the author of Consciousness Explained, which I also have in our library. Consciousness Explained. This is his book, Intuition, Pumps, and Other Tools for Thinking. He's like a philosopher. Since I had this book and I saw this book, I had to get it because I collect writers. And then I found a novel, a historical fiction by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Lenin in Zurich. This is a book I got at the Book Nook when I volunteered Friday. The Last Painting of Sara by Dominic Smith. And then I found Discomfort Zone, A Personal History by Jonathan Franzen. I have this. I didn't know that. Then I found an essay at the Book Nook by John Fowles, The Tree. It says here, this is John Fowles. He lived from 1926. He died in 2005. Is widely regarded as one of the preeminent English novelists of the 20th century. His books have sold millions of copies, been turned into beloved movies, been popularly voted among the 100 greatest novels of the century. To a smaller yet no less passionate audience, Fowles is also known for having written The Tree, one of his few works of nonfiction. First published a generation ago, is a provocative meditation on the connection between the natural world and human creativity, and a powerful argument against the taming the wild in it. And then I got at the Book Nook this book, One More Train to Ride, Underground World of Modern American Hoboes by Cliff Williams Oats. I like books on hobos, hopping on freights, tramps, wanderers, travelers, nomads. So I got that. And then I found this memoir by William Manchester. I have several books by him. He's a very famous American historian. He's also written a book on medieval history, I think. Yeah, he's written biographies. John F. Kennedy. I have this biography, American Caesar, Douglas MacArthur, 1880 to 1964. I have his history, The Glory and the Dream, and Narrative History of America, 1932 to 1972. And then he wrote this memoir, Goodbye Darkness, a memoir of the Pacific War by William Manchester. I like memoirs, and I collect his books, and so when I saw it, I had to get it. So yeah, that's what I got at thrift stores. I can put these down on the lower level now, except for the ones my wife's going to read. She wants to read this one. She wants to read Josephine Tey, Brat Farrar, and she wants to read The House of God by Samuel Shem. So I'll put those on her spot over there. These will go down in the lower level. After I turn off this camera, I can put this stuff down in the lower level and try to find some space for them in the midst of that ocean of words, the ocean of books, and they're just everywhere. So yeah, so like I said, I'm reading this tonight. Probably will read this until I go to bed. Schlesinger, the Imperial Historian by Richard Aldous. And I bought these letters of Arthur Schlesinger a couple of years ago, and in his journals. I like reading journals and diaries and letters, and I show them all the time here in BookTube. Because if you read a biography, they're always quoting from his letters. The biographer is going to quote from his journals. Schlesinger also wrote a memoir. He wrote this memoir. It's listed here in his writings. He wrote a memoir titled, let me see here, Schlesinger. Oh, I can't find it. He wrote a memoir of it. Oh, here it is. He wrote, I can't remember what he wrote. Maybe it's all here somewhere. Yeah, he wrote a memoir about his life. He wrote The Imperial Presidency, Robert Kennedy and His Times, Kennedy or Nixon, Does It Make Any Difference? The Political Upheavals, 1935. I showed that's about Roosevelt, the age of Roosevelt. The The Crisis of the New Order, which is about the vital center of politics of freedom. The Age of Jackson. Yeah, here. His memoir was titled A Life in the 20th Century, Innocent Beginnings, 1917 to 1950. That's probably why these journals start at 1952, because he wrote a memoir leading up to about 1950. I don't have that. I have to order it. Maybe I'll find it at a used book sale or a thrift store someday. Can't get everything. You always that's one thing about being a book collector. You're always on the search for something to add to your collection on a certain writer or subject, or American history, medieval spirituality, history of Calvinism, speaking in tongues, the origin of man, the different kinds of angels, all kinds of things. So I will download this video before I go to bed tonight. Tomorrow is a Tuesday. It's supposed to be like today, rain, dark, dreary, dismal, ugly weather. So I'll sign off. Thank you for the new subscribers. Feel free to comment. Feel free to ask me questions. And I hope you're having a good night and that you have a good week. And I'll sign off. Bye.